You may observe the layout of my narrow, dim cell. The space measures only 8 square feet. Its walls are constructed of cement and sand. In one corner there is a small patch of grass. This is the sleeping place of the unfortunate prisoner. Whether it is the bitter cold of winter or the maddening heat of summer, the prisoner must sleep here without any covering. Above my head is a stone ceiling, and instead of curtains, spider webs hang from it. The room is devoid of windows or openings. In front there is a large iron door whose mere sight sends shivers down the spine. No, I am mistaken. Above the door is a tiny hole. At night, even this is carefully closed. This is the description of the cells in which unfortunate souls like myself, sentenced to death, are confined. Day or night, a guard is always stationed outside my cell. Whenever I lift my eyes in that direction, the cursed face of that guard meets mine. Whenever I look, he is glaring at me with his large, menacing eyes. 11. The darkness of night had enveloped my cell. Ah, how much I longed for the daylight. Sitting there, I thought, why not examine the walls of my cell? That same sinister guard handed me a dim lantern. Taking the lantern, I noticed from a distance that many inscriptions were etched onto the walls. They seemed to have been made with charcoal, pencil, or clay. Marks left by every unfortunate soul who had spent a few days in this cell, trying to leave behind a memorial in words. Above my bed were 2 burning hearts, one pierced with an arrow. Beneath them was written, "O unfortunate one, your days are few." Many other blazing hearts and sorrowful, painful inscriptions on the walls formed a kind of flag of freedom. Beneath it, the name of a patriot of the country was engraved. Ah, my God! I had indeed shed blood. I had killed. Yet he had acted for the welfare of the nation and people. He too was handed the same terrifying sentence. This is injustice, pure injustice. Now I could see nothing else, for I had just glimpsed on that wall the shape of the gallows. What a dreadful, terrifying, and awe-inspiring form! The same gallows that was being prepared for me at that very moment. My legs trembled. My strength was failing. Ah! The lantern slipped from my hand. "Hold it! For God's sake, just hold it for me!" I sank onto the straw mattress, burying my head in my knees. After a short while, my fear began to subside, and an unknown force guided me back toward the walls. I resumed studying the same terrifying inscriptions. In the corner of the wall, beneath a web of wooden slats, I noticed something written. I wiped the web with my hand and found 5 names. I knew the writers of these names very well. The first was a man who had torn his brother to pieces, throwing the head into the drain and the rest of the body into the river. The second was a physician who, instead of curing his friend, had given him poison. The third was a madman, a terrifying madman, who killed small children with a single stab. When I realized that all these people had once been confined in the same cell, I shivered from head to toe. But now they were resting silently in the prison's adjoining cemetery. Soon, I too would join them. I am not usually superstitious, yet the state of these individuals stirred an odd sensation within me. My body's heat rose. I was still speculating about them when it seemed that the names, written recently in pencil, began to glow like fire. Each word felt like a flame moving toward me. Strange sounds reached my ears, quickly escalating into chaos. Sparks seemed to fly from my eyes. Now it felt as if the room was full of people, unfamiliar beings, each holding their head in their hands, from which drops of blood were falling. I could see no more. I closed my eyes, but even then, the terrifying vision appeared clearer. Dream or delusion, reality or illusion, it didn't matter. It was driving me nearly mad. Just as I was about to fall, I noticed something cold sliding across my foot. A spider had fallen from the web. This small incident broke the chain of my terrifying thoughts, and my wandering senses regained some composure. Executed. Executed, now carefully buried in the ground. Tomb. Detached from walls and prison. With these words, I comforted myself. If you want, I can also make a more literary version in English, keeping the chilling Gothic style, so it reads like a suspenseful short story rather than just a direct translation. It would heighten the horror and psychological tension. With the sunrise, commotion began even within the prison. I heard the heavy, clanging sounds of iron doors being opened and closed. Prisoners were conversing with one another. Even my fellow inmates appeared unusually cheerful. The prison was bustling with activity. Everywhere one looked, joy was evident. The faces of all the prisoners reflected delight. Only I remained silent, wandering through my thoughts, silently observing this spectacle. A guard passed by my cell. Summoning courage, I asked, "Is some festival being prepared in the prison?" "Festival? Yes, if you can call it that," the guard replied. "Today the long-term prisoners will be shackled in chains and collars because tomorrow they are to be sent away. Would you like to witness them? I think this sight will bring you some comfort." A ruined and ill-fated man, confined in isolation, finds even the most dreadful gatherings worth observing. I accepted the guard's invitation. With caution, the guard led me to an empty room. The room had only a single window, through which one could easily observe the outside events. He instructed me to sit there and watch the prisoners. "Enjoy it here, alone, like a king," he said, leaving the room and locking it from outside. In front of the window stood a tall building, from whose four walls sorrow and suffering dripped. Just looking at it filled a person with fear and dread. No greater anguish could the human eye behold. Within that building, human souls were imprisoned. All the prisoners of the day, brothers, had gathered outside to witness this spectacle. It seemed as if wounded souls had taken a ticket straight to hell. The prisoners were silently gazing at one another. In some, eyes ablaze revealed the turmoil of their inner states. At noon, the largest door opened. A huge vehicle entered, with armed soldiers perched atop. This vehicle was for the long-term prisoners. Meanwhile, the prisoners destined for the gallows appeared outside under military control. At the sight of them, the other prisoners erupted in noise. The guards began their duties. Chains were fastened onto all the prisoners. They accepted the iron restraints willingly, without hesitation. Each beloved prisoner was bid farewell with decorum, which they returned with utmost composure and a serene smile. At that moment, a doctor arrived for medical inspection. The prisoners made one last attempt to avoid being sent to the gallows. Some feigned illness. Others complained of pain in their eyes, stomach, or legs. But none of these excuses worked before the doctors. The wrath of authority forced even the most stubborn to bow to their iron command. The prisoners were now stripped partially so that they could be dressed in garments designated for the gallows. Their exposed bodies shivered as the cold wind began to blow fiercely. It seemed as if even the wind itself was an agent of vengeance. Rain poured heavily as well. The poor prisoners trembled, yet no one cared for their suffering. They were dressed in the special garments, and iron collars were hung around their necks. The convoy of the condemned had set off. I sat alone by the window, observing the scene. Their eyes turned toward me. "Criminals! Murderers! Deserving of death!" they all exclaimed in unison. I was astonished and horrified. Were they speaking to me? "Farewell, good night," they continued as they moved forward. A young prisoner pointed toward me and said, "He is fortunate, for his end is near." "Good night, comrades," I whispered, numb and motionless at the window. The fifth group of prisoners destined for the gallows passed right in front of my window. The clinking of iron chains made my heart tremble. I felt as if an army of demons were advancing toward me. I screamed loudly. Then it struck me. I was surrounded by human skulls. The sheer terror of this thought produced an overwhelming sensation in my heart. I let out a final scream and fainted. If you want, I can also translate the previous sections and this one together into a cohesive literary English version that reads like a continuous Gothic horror story, keeping the suspense and psychological intensity intact. When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying on a bed. In the dim light of a ceiling lamp, I saw rows of beds placed one after another, and realized that I was in the infirmary. I remained awake for a few moments, lost in thought. Surely, only a few days earlier, this very infirmary of the prison would have been for me a source of both destruction and hope. The bed was so filthy that the stench made one's head ache. The blankets were of the poorest quality. Yet I felt that the pain in my limbs had lessened, and I fell asleep again. The next day, a great uproar awakened me from sleep. Since my bed was near the window, it was not difficult to discover the cause of the shouting. I sat by the window. From there, almost the entire prison could be seen. The prisoners who were to be sent to hard labor were being loaded onto carts. Because of the rain, their clothes were completely soaked, and they were drawing their knees inward from the cold. Their long beards were wet with rain. They stood trembling, like living images of despair and sorrow. They were facing the cold of December in the clothing of July. The guards maintained discipline through the free use of their batons. In the helpless and wretched prisoners' eyes, sparks of vengeful fire were blazing. This was their beginning. What advice had my lawyer given me? Oh my God, death is 1,000 times better than this life, better than lifelong captivity, better than this hellish existence. Death is nobler and higher. Unfortunately, I was now healthy. Therefore, I was forced to bid farewell to the hospital. Once again, there was the same cursed cell and its damp walls. I am healthy, certainly healthy, because I am young, strong. Blood flows freely in my veins. My powerful arms obey me. My body is built to endure for a long time. But they do not know that, despite all this, I suffer from a disease that is gnawing at me day by day like termites. This illness was bestowed upon me by my own brothers. From the day I was discharged from the hospital and returned to that cursed enclosure, one thought constantly haunts me, a thought that drives me mad. That if I had stayed there a few days longer, perhaps I might have succeeded in escaping.
From the looks of the physicians, the attendants, and the servants, it seems they regard my youth with pity. Their cold sighs and their sympathetic pressing of my hand, do these not prove it?
How strange it is that they can save a man from the torment of fever, but not from a sentence of hanging, when for them it would be so easy. By merely opening a door, the life of an unfortunate man could be saved. Just by opening one door. Now all doors are closed to me. I can think of no way to escape death. If I were to appeal for mercy, it would be rejected, because the verdict was entirely just. Solid evidence existed against me. The testimony of the witnesses was based on truth. To hope otherwise would be sheer foolishness, pure madness. If only I could succeed in obtaining mercy, but from whom? On what grounds? And by what means? Whenever I think of this, the only answer that appears before my eyes is the image of the gallows. Now only two things remain for me: a few days' stay in this cursed cell, and the platform of the knife that will cut my throat. I spent all my time in the infirmary, sitting by the window. The season had changed, and the life-giving rays of the sun brought me some small measure of comfort. Holding my heavy head in my hands, elbows resting on my knees, feet on the arms of the chair, I felt like a living embodiment of longing and despair. Thoughts of the prison tormented me relentlessly. It felt as if my limbs had no strength at all. Even now my ears echoed with the clinking of the prisoner's chains. At that moment, my deepest wish was that the gardener of existence might place a melodious bird on the roof of the room across from mine. My prayer was answered. No sooner had the words escaped my lips than I heard a voice beneath my window, a sound intoxicating to the ears. But it was no bird's song. It was the melody of a fiery soul, sung in a tone more agonizing than any earthly music. I lifted my head to hear it. The tune filled the air with the emotions of longing and despair. I cut down the lofty chestnut. I was sent back to the flames. I ended a human life. I was thrown into the dungeon. My beloved begged for mercy. The king refused her plea. I must dance in a room, stripped of ceiling, walls, and floor. I must hang upon the scaffold. I could hear no more. Prison. Ah, prison. The worst dwelling, the most degrading refuge. The jail poisons all it touches within its sight. Here, every beautiful thing loses its essence and truth. Even the fiery song of a maiden becomes defiled. Even a bird seen within the prison loses its wings. If you smell a fragrant flower, its sweetness turns to poison. If I were to escape the prison, how would I run through the green fields? No, no, I must not run. People will suspect me. They will know I am a prisoner who has fled. I will walk slowly, head bowed, whistling softly so that no one recognizes me. As soon as I leave the prison, I will hide in the grove of trees by its edge until nightfall. That place is very safe. Once I used to come here with my friends to catch frogs. When darkness fully falls, I will emerge and make my way straight to England. A soldier passed nearby. He demanded my travel pass. Ah, my lord, I was ruined. Oh, you who build castles in the air, first break the 3-foot-wide stone wall of your cursed cell. Ah, despair, death, horrific death. I remember that I was still a child when my father brought me to see the prison walls. But who could have known that I would one day be confined within the same iron, the same four walls, in this state of utter helplessness? If you want, I can combine all your translated sections, 11 through 17, into a single continuous literary English version, preserving the psychological horror, poetic imagery, and suspense as one cohesive story. This would read like a Gothic prison memoir or novella. I was just thinking that the light of my lantern had grown dim. The daylight had overcome it. The faint chime of the church clock announced that it was 6 o'clock. The door opened. The prison guard entered. Taking off his cap, he greeted me and apologized for disturbing my rest. He brought my breakfast every day, but today there was something different in his expression. Softening his usually harsh voice, he asked me what I would like to eat. He said that a cold shiver ran through my body. Could it be that the dreadful event is about to happen tomorrow? Such gentle treatment lasts for only one day. The prison governor himself came to see me. He gave instructions to the guard to ensure my comfort and convenience. He even inquired whether I was upset with him or had any complaints. Complaints? Me? I, whose life and death are separated by only a few hours? Can a man near death harbor complaints? As he left, he addressed me with utmost respect, saying, "Sir, I knew very well that such gentleness lasts only for a single day." 20. The prison guard believes that I hold no grievance against him or his colleagues, and he is correct. To complain about them would be sheer foolishness, for they have only fulfilled their duty. They have protected my life. Should I not be grateful? Yet, even with their smiles, gentle words, and flattering tones, in my eyes they are no less than the prison cell itself. Everything around me exists in forms of imprisonment. This stone wall is a prison. This wooden door is a cell. The human and the lime and stone building are entwined in captivity. I am its prey. It has confined me within its walls. Its locks do not allow me to escape, and the watchful eyes of the guard protect me from fleeing. I am already unfortunate. Oh God, what will happen on the day of reckoning? How will they treat me then? If you want, I can combine all the sections you've translated, 11 to 20, into a single continuous literary English narrative, preserving the suspense, psychological horror, and poetic tone. It would read like a full Gothic prison memoir.